He asked if he could speak to Cornell alone, away from his mother. And after being separated from his mother, Rudy apparently went into detail about his mother's abuse.
We believe, based on what he said to us, she was drugging the hell out this kid. And she convinced him that he was in trouble for initially running away. She would ask him to play daddy. She told him that he had to be the husband. She would force him to sleep in the bed with her.
Imagine finding a rat baked inside your loaf of bread. That's exactly what happened to a woman in South Africa. In August of this year, this woman bought a loaf of whole wheat bread from a local shop on her way home from work. She ate a few slices without noticing the rat, and then one morning she took out the bread from the fridge to make toast and saw this black hair coming out of her bread. As you can see here, the rat is literally baked inside the bread. After an investigation was done, it was stated that this wasn't the first time that someone found a rat inside this company's food. This seems to be happening more often now because something very similar happened to a man in Australia in February when he bought this wrap and then he noticed that he was chewing on a rat. He bought the wrap at a very popular place called Beefy's Aussie World and said that while he was chewing on it, he realized that it was really chewy. So he spat it out and there was an entire rat. I don't understand how something like this could happen, but this man went back to the restaurant and complained, and all the workers were in disbelief. He said that till this day, he hasn't been able to enjoy a meal because he can't stop thinking about the rat inside his food.
Sue them, man. You need to get that money, bro. I'm suing, bro. Imagine you eating a rat and you freaking wonder why it's so chewy. Boom, it's a rat. See, because how would you guys react? I definitely need to see that down below. I'm suing, man. I'm sorry. Gotta be something.
Guys, parents told you as a kid. Number 1, that if you swallow gum, it will stay in your stomach for 7 years. Yeah, this is false. You would actually just poop it out in a couple days. Number 2, that coffee will stunt your growth. This is false. All it would do is make a hyper kid have even more energy. Number 3, that if you eat your carrots, you will get night vision or better eyesight. Unfortunately, this is false. All it will do is make your eyes more healthy. But if you do eat enough carrots, your skin could turn orange. Number 4, if you keep growing cross-eyed, you'll stay like that forever. Well, this is just simply incorrect. Nothing will happen. Number 5, that cracking your knuckles will give you arthritis. This is incorrect. Knuckle cracking is actually just nitrogen going into a joint. Number 6, that chocolate milk comes from brown cows. Yeah, this chocolate milk came from the same cow your white milk came from. Number 7, that sitting too close to the TV will give you eye pain. Scientists actually studied this and that's not true at all. Nothing will happen to your eyes.
This is the creepy
My
story
whole childhood was a lie.
A girl was on the subway late at night when she noticed a woman staring at her intensely. The woman was sitting between two old men. The girl kept looking away, but the woman staring never broke eye contact. It started to freak the girl out. At the next stop, a tall man in a trench coat boarded. He sat down right next to the girl. The woman who was staring paid no attention to the man who just boarded and just kept staring at the girl. Now this really creeped out the girl. The two men that the woman was sitting between never once looked in her direction. The girl then pretended not to notice, but each time she looked, the woman was still staring at her. At the next stop, the man in the trench coat got up to leave when suddenly he grabbed the girl's arm and dragged her out of the subway. The doors shut and the subway took off. The girl then started screaming for help, but then the man said, "Calm down. I just saved your life. I didn't mean to scare you, but I had to get you off that subway." The woman that was staring at you was dead, and the two men beside her were holding her up.
Whoa.
Yo, what's up?
Really?
These are the scariest unsolved mysteries in the world, part 1. The Villisca Axe Murders. On the night of June 10th, 1912, in the quiet town of Villisca, Iowa, the Moore family returned from their night at church. The two parents plus their 4 children, plus 2 kids from the neighboring home that were spending the night, decided to settle down and go to sleep. The next morning, the neighbors found all 8 of them hacked to death with an axe. There were no signs of forced entry, and only one child was found outside of their bed. It's believed that the murderer climbed into the attic while the family was at church, and once the family returned home and settled down to rest, he came downstairs and then committed his crime. But get this, the only clue was a pile of cigarette butts in the attic, nothing more than that. There have been several suspects, including a suspicious business partner, an unsuspected lover, and even a traveling preacher, but none for sure. Obviously, this case has been left unsolved for years, but the house is still standing, and it's supposedly haunted by the family who got murdered and the person who murdered the family. But the thing is, you can stay there overnight. What do you think?
I would not stay there overnight. I said, no. It's been that long they couldn't solve it, man. I told you that's like one of my worst fears, bro. You're in a house that big and you don't know who's in it. Nah. That's an added secret.
Normal looking photos with disturbing backstories. This might look like a normal photo of a statue, but the reality is terrifying. The statue is of a girl named Sadako, and she was a victim of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima when she was 2. At 11, she was diagnosed with leukemia with less than 1 year to live. In the hospital, her father told her a story about how paper cranes can grant a wish to whoever makes them. So she set a goal to make 1,000 paper cranes. Unfortunately, she passed away before reaching that number, so her friends finished the 1,000 paper cranes and buried them with her. This next one is even more disturbing. The woman in this photo is Myra Hindley, and the man who took this photo is Ian Brady, and they had taken the lives of more than 5 missing children. What's even more messed up is in this photo, Myra is posing at the gravesite of her victims. Follow for more.
Urban legends caught on camera.
He was dashing across that field.
Part 3. A chimpanzee from Zambia was observed wearing a piece of grass in her ear for no apparent reason. After other members of her group started copying her, researchers soon realized that this was the first fashion statement observed in the wild. In Moscow, Russia, packs of stray dogs have been known to send out a smaller, cuter member to beg for food. They apparently understand that it will be more successful than a bigger, less attractive member of the pack. Here's some incredibly disturbing footage of a raven speaking human.
Come on. Come on. Come on.
I hate it. Octopuses are considered to be the smartest invertebrate animals on the planet. On 3 separate occasions, Otto the octopus caused a power outage at his aquarium by climbing to the edge of his tank and shooting a jet of water at a bright light. He's been seen juggling hermit crabs, throwing rocks at the glass, and renovating the surroundings of his tank.
You trying to get out, bro. Trying to do a prison break, man. I've heard when even octopus like open up the top of something, like when they crammed into something, bro, they can open up the top to it.
Outer 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. Being buried alive accidentally occurred so often that people invented safety coffins. In the Middle Ages, people used to eat mummies for medical purposes. It's the main reason we don't have a lot of mummies left today. In the United States, there are more vacant homes than homeless people. Did you know that the actress Glenn Close was raised in a cult? The Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland used to have real skeletons as props. In 1976, a TV crew realized one of the hanging bodies in the Laugh in the Dark ride was indeed a real body by accidentally breaking it. Women in the 18th century used lead as makeup. This is the first chainsaw. It was invented by 2 Scottish doctors. And, it was invented for childbirth. Yeah, there's a lot more. Like for part 4.
Let's go through their head.
Skinwalkers. They are said to be powerful witches and medicine men. They can even change their form to any animal they desire, including humans. But they mainly change into deer, wolves, and coyotes. The scary part is they say if you see one, they can steal your face and even your last scream for help. You might think this is like a folklore or tale. People actually believe these are real. The scary part is there's actual videos of people seeing oddly walking humans screaming help in the middle of nowhere. See, they say skinwalkers pretend to be humans in distress, and if they're calling out for help, they're just trying to lure you in. That's when they take your life and use your voice and your look to catch their next gullible victim. A man's wife wasn't even home, but yet somebody was calling him to come downstairs in his wife's voice.
No, I don't think I will.
If you want me to go out in the middle of the field, at least shapeshift and look like Rihanna or Beyonce. I'm making a mess, but this look good. I'll be there in a minute. 30 seconds flat. Naked. Very naked. Maybe even Lizzo. Let's light this candle.
What? I noticed she's always eating somewhere when they're saying those videos, bro. You make me hungry. That's an edit, bro. Like I said, see any edits, spot them out. Ooh, what the hell? It's like moving back and forth. Oh, what the? Whew. Oh god, they got me. Hit the jets just like I would, bro. What?
The disturbing legends from around the world.
Honey's. Where the mermaids originate from, bro?
These are a few dumb things that we all believed as kids. Look, please don't tell me I'm the only dumb child and that you guys also believe this shit, okay? Or else I'm gonna feel really left out.
Okay.
Anyway, let's begin. Number one, believing our parents that when they said if you had food and then went swimming, you would get a fucking cramp? Yeah, that's a load of fucking horseshit. Where the fuck did they get this information from? And why did we believe them? Search it up, it's not true at all. You can eat as much as you want and go swimming, no cramps. Number two, I thought that red ants were bad and black ants were good. That just isn't true though, is it? Like, yeah, obviously red ants are more aggressive, but they don't pose any more threats than black ants do. They're the same! As a kid, I was an idiot, alright? Number three, that whenever it was dark, something was always in the dark out to get us. Whenever we went to sleep, if it's dark, fuck me. Going to pee late at night, fuck me. Being the last one to turn off all the lights, fuck no. Yeah, no wonder kids nowadays have PTSD, man. Fuck me.
Oh,
Number four, okay, this one's probably just me, but I thought doctors couldn't die. I thought because, you know, they knew all about the medical field, they were smart people, they were just like immortals. Because like your parents always made them seem like such heroes. So I always thought they couldn't die, but eventually I realized that they can. And last, but definitely not least, at number 5, please don't tell me I am the only one with this one. But I thought that when people turned exactly 100 years old, that they would die. Okay, look, I was a stupid child. But I played a lot of video games and I thought it was like reaching the level 100, you know? Like, that's the end. Game over. Please tell me I'm not the only one.
Creepy last.
Okay, maybe the last one, it probably got me when I was a younger kid, yeah. You used to think, like, the older you got, 100, that's like, that was the cap limit. Like, you could go past that, man. You was spitting on the last one. I believed in the last one, though, so.
Words people said right before dying. Registered nurse Shirley Smith said that she had a very rich patient who was a true Satanist that was dying of cancer. The patient had upside-down crosses and a Satan's Bible by her bedside. Shirley said that she will never forget what happened. It was the middle of the summer, and yet it was so cold and dark in her room that you couldn't even stand it, even in the middle of the day. She said that it got so evil feeling in there that she had to call a priest to pray with her and her aides before they would even enter the room. When the patient passed away, she had not spoken in over 24 hours. And then all of a sudden, she sat straight up and said, "Satan, take me." And then she fell back on the bed. Shirley said that after she passed, the room got bright and extremely warm. Shockingly, when they moved the patient's body, they had to get rid of the mattress because where her body had been, it looked burnt. And the most horrible smell was emanating from the mattress cover. Needless to say, Shirley went to confession immediately because she did not want an evil spirit around her. A nurse said that one of their patients had a serious recurrence and had to be admitted. Over the course of several nights, he had become quite upset during rounds. He kept asking for his wallet, saying that he had to pay the ferryman. The medical student on rotation in the department took a quarter out of his pocket and put it in the patient's hand. The patient then dropped the coin into the cup on his bedstand and calmed down. Later that night, he passed away quietly. The nurse asked what happened. The medical student, who remembered his Greek mythology, said that the patient had to pay Charon, the ferryman, to be taken across the river Styx. A nurse said that he was doing rounds at a hospital. There was one two-patient room, and one of the patients was a very loud and confused woman who could be quite a handful. On this particular night, she had a roommate who had passed away shortly before the nurse entered the room. She was DNR, so there was no code blue. When he entered the room, he noticed that the elderly lady, who was usually very loud and confused, was sitting quietly with her hands crossed neatly upon her lap. Something was different, and there was this look of serenity on her face. She asked him in a voice that seemed much younger and clearer than before, "Did you see them, young man? They're so beautiful." He said, "No, ma'am, there's no one else here." She said, "They're right next to you, talking to Mrs. Banneker. The angels. They're so beautiful." He said that he instantly felt every hair of his body stand up, and an electric tingle course up and down his spine. "They're not here for me this time," she said sadly.
Horror movies coming out in 2022 that you probably didn't know about. First up, this movie has a really unique story. It's called The Black Phone, and it's about a boy who gets kidnapped by a masked man and locked in a soundproof room. But then he realizes there's a phone on the wall where he can hear the voices of all the masked man's previous victims, and they're determined to help him escape. This movie was also made by the same people who made Sinister, which is another great horror movie. But next up, we have Don't Worry, Darling. This one's about a 1950s housewife living with her husband in an experimental utopian community until she realizes her husband is hiding a terrifying secret. This movie has an all-star cast. It includes Harry Styles and Florence Pugh, and is directed by Olivia Wilde. I just know this movie is gonna be good. Last up, if you watch the movie Orphan, there's a prequel coming this month. Orphan First Kill is about Esther's first time pretending to be an orphan. Do you remember how they mentioned that the family that adopted Esther before all died in a house fire? Well, this movie is about how all that happened. Follow for more.
You guys know I don't check out scary movies, man, but if any of the seekers seen it, you can tell me down below how they were. That's an edit. You see through that. Okay, they say we're gonna be moving in this video. Is this an edit? That playpen is moving, bro. What the fuck?
This man went to hell for 23 minutes. Listen to how he describes the demons he saw in hell.
I was standing beneath this tunnel, like cavern walls that were sending upward. And all along the cavern walls were demons. Some were only 2 and 3 feet tall. Some were 12 and 13 feet tall. But every one of them were twisted and deformed and grotesque. The most hideous looking creatures. And I noticed there were snakes crawling all over everything. And then I looked and I was standing on a bed of maggots, just solid maggots crawling all over everything and everybody. But remember, Jesus said, where their worm dies not and the fire is not quenched. And he used the word maggot. And Isaiah 14:11 says, where the maggot will be spread under thee and the worm will cover thee.
This is no joke. Hell is a real place. Repent of your sins today and turn to Jesus so you never go there.
Did you see it?
Disturbing facts that will ruin your life. The average person walks past 36 murders in their lifetime. During World War II, Japan bombed China with fleas infected with the bubonic plague. Heartbreak can trigger a massive flood of emotions that can cause fatal heart attacks. People's general happiness peaks at 21 and does not reach that level again until they retire. People who stay up late at night have more psychopathic tendencies than those who sleep early.
Really? So if you're a night owl, you're a psycho?
back to another episode of Animal Facts They Don't Teach You in School. The first animal on today's list is the living alarm clock, chickens. Did you know these egg shitters are more closely related to the T-Rex than they are birds? Yeah, you heard that right. Chickens are pretty damn closely related to the roid lizard. Have you ever wondered why chickens walk around and they always look fucking confused? They're like... Well, that's because the design of a chicken's eyes are A, really complicated, and B, can't really decide what they want to do. That's because both of their eyes do completely different things. One is nearsighted and one is farsighted, and their eyes also see more colors than we do. I would imagine these feathery cocks constantly have a headache. And speaking of heads, a chicken by the name of Mike in 1947 once lived 18 months without a head. First of all, who names a chicken Mike? And second of all, why was he headless for that long? Alright, next animal. One of the very few animals to evolve like a real-life Pokemon, the caterpillar. And I bet you didn't know this, but caterpillars dance to music.
Things are right here, but for whatever reason, when you talk...
Hello! And unlike most people, caterpillars aren't very picky with what they listen to, because they'll dance to anything if it's loud enough. Studies show that this BBC with hair in all the wrong places will dance to anything loud enough because it associates it with the predator and it's trying to ward it off by wiggling around. I don't eat caterpillars, but I feel like that makes you look more appetizing. Now previously I mentioned caterpillars evolve, some to moths, some to butterflies. Now you may think to yourself, that's a pretty good life. A, now you can fly around and get food and avoid predators, and B, you look less like my genitals. But life's not that great when they evolve. The fact of the matter is, many moth species don't live more than 24 hours, and that's because they're born without a mouth. Therefore they can't eat and they basically just starve. Their only job is to reproduce. Up next on today's list is an animal that seems to spend most of its life struggling, the sloth. Besides looking like my creepy old neighbor, every time they defecate a third of their body weight. I can't imagine that's an easy thing to do. And aside from releasing demons every time they have to go to the bathroom, it also happens once per week, and it's life-threatening. That's right, every time the animal embodiment of molasses decides it has to go to the bathroom, which is once per week, it climbs all the way down to the bottom of the tree and digs a hole to go into. So now not only are you pushing out demons, but you're also worried about predators. And you can't move very fast in case one comes along. But don't worry, they're not totally useless. Because for some reason, they can hold their breath double the amount of time as a dolphin. Dolphins are about 20 minutes, sloths are about 40. Evolution really handed my boy the shit end of the stick, but for some reason he's a professional scuba diver. And did I mention sloths are basically designed to fall out of trees, up to 100 feet without any injury, and they do it about once a week. Their body has evolved to survive these falls instead of evolving not to fall. My guy seems to work off the same logic as the human population. I'm starting to think monkeys weren't actually our ancestors. Sloths were. All I got. Peace.
That's crazy, especially about the part the sloths, they evolved, you know, to take
the wrong door and then being murdered because of it. Well, that's what happened to 56-year-old Maria Cotto after visiting a client at an apartment building in Westchester. Maria was a caseworker for the county's Department of Social Services and was conducting home visits when she accidentally knocked on 31-year-old Hasim Jenkins' front door. When he answered the door, instead of directing Maria to the correct apartment, he punched her in the face. Maria tried running from him, but he chased her into a neighbor's apartment and he continued to kick her in the head with a pair of heavy boots. Somehow, while this was all going on, she managed to call 911, but when police arrived, Hasim claimed that Maria tried to stab him and that's why he beat her. But that never happened. She only knocked on his door because she thought that was her client's home. This poor lady suffered severe brain bleeding, brain swelling, and multiple facial fractures. She was placed on a ventilator, but unfortunately, she passed away a month later. When Hasim was arrested, Maria's phone was found in his pocket, and now he's facing a long list of charges, including second-degree murder. And something her family said, which is so sad, is that this all happened the year before Maria planned to retire.
If you ever feel like someone's watching you, they probably are. This, my friends, is the Dark Watchers. Click the plus drop a like, tag a friend, or they might find you. It is said that the Dark Watchers' faces have never been seen before. They make no noise and have never talked to anybody. But as soon as they have you in their sights, you're done for. My question to you guys is, would you still go outside?
The Dark Watchers? Hell no. I'm more vigilant.
This incestuous family took the lives of over 1,000 people. This is the true story of Wrong Turn. In the 16th century, a man named Sawney Bean decided to run away with his girlfriend to the shores of Galloway County in Scotland, where he began living in a cave, surviving by stealing food and belongings from passing tourists. Sawney Bean and his wife had children with whom they committed incest. This family began to grow, as they all had relationships with each other. Sawney Bean's clan grew to 48 people. and what they stole was no longer enough to eat. The Bean family began to take the lives of people who passed near their cave, and then eat them. For 25 years, this family survived doing this savage activity, until one day a couple was attacked by the Bean family, but the man managed to defend himself with a gun, but his wife did not survive. The man had discovered the cave of the Bean clan, so he decided to report it to the authorities. After that, the soldiers of the King of Scotland went to the cave where they captured the whole family, and then they were condemned to be burned at the stake.
Russ McKamey from
Disgusting
McKamey
story.
Manor, one of America's most infamous haunted house attractions, was just arrested. So if you don't know Russ McKamey, this is a long, dark rabbit hole. Basically, he runs an attraction called McKamey Manor. This is run on his property, out of his house, and it has been billed as the most extreme horror experience you could possibly put yourself through. Basically, when you sign up for this, you sign your life away. Inside of this attraction, where you go on your own personal tour, they abuse people. They subject them to horrific mental torture. They force them to eat things, injure them, and do all sorts of just horrific stuff.
Not for me.
So for years, people have been questioning how this whole thing is legal, because it really does sit on the very edge of what's legal and what's illegal when it comes to physical abuse and harm. But just a few days ago, Russ McKamey, the guy that owns and operates this place, was arrested. But it wasn't for charges based on his haunted house attraction.
Whoa.
He has actually been charged with second-degree attempted murder, rape, and domestic assault. These charges are coming from Russ's ex-girlfriend, who's claiming that he tried to kill her on multiple occasions. And the arrest affidavit even states that at one point Russ allegedly strangled her out of consciousness. And on Friday, July 19th, the police said that Russ had raped his girlfriend and strangled her again, which would be the second time that he did so. So we're going to see how this case plays out. I will keep y'all updated. But this is shocking news. I mean, I've followed this story for almost 10 years now. I've always thought what he was doing was extremely bizarre and disturbing. Especially the fact that he films all of these tortures, these legal tortures, and sells them to people online, which is just an even more disturbing element to me, that there are people out there that purchase this stuff and probably get off on it. But yeah, what do you think about McKamey Manor? Let me know in the comment section below.
They need to shut that place down, bro. I don't sound like a freaking haunted house. That just sounds like a damn torture chamber. And he's selling those videos online to make them profit. The signs are all right there. Just have to pay attention. Edit. Call him when we see it.
Creepiest home camera footage. In 2017, a mother in Billings, Montana woke up in the middle of the night to a notification on her phone. Her phone was sent to a baby monitor she had set up in her infant daughter's room. On this night, upon being alerted, she opened the app expecting to see her daughter awake in the crib. But instead she saw this. A man she didn't know is seen crouched down in the room. She saw this and ran to the room to retrieve her daughter and run out the house. She didn't see anyone in the room but wasn't exactly looking. When she called the cops, they arrived and conducted a search of the home but didn't find anything. A very odd detail is that it was found that nothing but the remote to a dog show collar was stolen from the house. Who this man is and how he got in the house is still unknown.
So someone was definitely
This is a
dead.
scary story about the mistake. A girl named Kelly was on a business trip for 3 days, and she was so excited to see her husband and kid. But when she got home, the only one that was waiting for her was her kid. Kelly then asked, "Where's Daddy?" and her kid then said, "Upstairs with a girl." Kelly immediately got a pit in her stomach and walked up the stairs slowly, and then opened their bedroom door and saw her husband in there with another girl. Kelly started to scream and cry, and her husband tried to explain himself. But Kelly wasn't listening at all. And in a pit of rage, Kelly went down to the kitchen and grabbed a knife. She then went back into the room and stabbed her husband countless times. The other woman in the room was shocked and completely lost for words. Kelly then pointed the knife at her and said, "You're next." But then the woman said, "Wait, he wasn't cheating on you. He thought you weren't going to be home till tomorrow, and I'm a party planner. And he hired me to set up and throw a party for you." The woman then showed Kelly the idea her husband had. Kelly then dropped the knife and couldn't believe what she just did. Kelly then went downstairs, grabbed her kid, and left.
And to this day, nobody has ever seen Kelly or her kid again.
Scary
Is that a
facts
true
you'll
story?
think about at night. Horned
Scary.
lizards squirt blood from their eyes. The Devil's Bible is a real book. If the sun exploded, you would not know about it for 8 minutes.
Ah.
20% of children report hearing voices.
Scary facts you wish you knew.
Okay.
There's a shack called the Devil's Toy Box in Louisiana. And for some reason, people who go in lose their minds. You know the tingly feeling you get when you eat a pineapple? Well, that's because the pineapple is eating you. It has an enzyme called bromelain, and that enzyme eats meat, which you're made of. I'm gonna stick to watermelon. No one
What?
can comment on this video and get 0 likes. Sharks have been around for 420 million years, meaning they have survived all 4 big mass extinctions, making them older than dinosaurs, Mount Everest, and even some trees on this planet. Yet we could potentially see them go extinct in our lifetime. The person who invented homework came up with the idea as a punishment for his students. Now you can check if your phone activity is being monitored. Just click on share, slide all the way to the end, click more, and if any apps appear before your contacts, you should delete it immediately. This is a photo of Lyndon B. Johnson. In it, he's being sworn as president, just 2 hours after JFK was unalived. And the woman he's standing next to is Jackie Kennedy, who still had her husband's blood on her shirt. Lyndon B. Johnson turned to his friend, Albert Thompson, while Albert smirked and winked back. The photographer who captured the picture called the photo completely sinister. Doja Cat scares me. Studies show that people who like and follow me get smarter every day.
That thing with bromine, man, about eating pineapples, I know like a couple of y'all had that feeling, you know, you eat pineapples, you feel something on your tongue. I was like, I've always wanted to know, like, why did that happen after eating a couple pieces of pineapple? And we know the pineapple was eating me back, bro. Learning some wild facts today, man.
Things that bother you, they never bother me. Haven't got a lot, I don't need a lot. Coffee's only a dime.
Oh, some stuff from back now, back in the day.
You probably didn't know about.
Oh, what the hell? Is that a skinwalker or something? We definitely heard that. What the hell? That ain't no damn dog. Okay. That one might be an edit. I'm gonna have to go cap on that last one.
Creepiest things found in movie backgrounds. In the movie It, when Ben is reading about Derry's past in the library, the elder librarian can be seen in the background turning towards him and staring at him with a deeply unsettling grin. She remains out of focus the whole time, and the movie never highlights her creepy behavior. In the movie Hereditary, when Peter wakes up in the darkened and eerily silent house, you can spot his possessed mom hovering in the corner of the ceiling and staring at him. When he turns towards the corner she is at, she is then seen crawling away in the other direction without making a sound. In the movie Insidious, Renee spots a little ghost boy through the window dancing to Tiptoe Through the Tulips. But the ghost can actually be seen before Renee spots him dancing. Right in this scene when she tosses clothes in the laundry hamper, you can see the boy standing just to her left and facing the wall.
You watched Longlegs, but you didn't quite get it. Let me help you. The movie centers entirely around the Book of Revelation, also known as the Book of the Apocalypse. And throughout the movie, Michael Monroe's character repeats a chapter of the book. The dragon stood on the shore of the sea, and I saw a beast coming out of the sea. It had 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 crowns on its horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. The Unholy Trinity is made up of 3 main characters: the dragon, the beast of the sea, and the beast of the earth. This makes up a triangle, which we see Harker draw in the film, but also in the Book of Revelation, we learn that the devil's number is 666, which is why the birthday unalivings happen within 6 days of the kids' birthdays. The dragon, also known as the serpent, is Satan, and this is why we see flashes of snakes throughout the film. The beast of the sea is also known as the Antichrist, which is Longlegs. The beast of the earth is also known as the false prophet, which is Harper's mom. The Antichrist needed help from the false prophet to spread his message, which is what we see in the movie where Longlegs needed Ruth's help to spread dolls, the message. In the book of Revelation, it states that the false prophet is allowed to give breath to the image of the beast being the dolls. And the quote continues to say, so that the image of the beast can even speak and might cause those who would not worship the image of the beast to be slain. This is why the dolls have the little silver ball in their head, because it holds parts of the Antichrist in them, and the dolls and the ball are able to speak to the families. And if they didn't worship the beast, then they'd be... Since we learned that Harker's doll is still alive and holding the Antichrist in it, this is why Harker has somewhat of that sixth sense throughout the film when she's being drawn to Longlegs, and why she hears like whispering throughout the movie, because it's still able to speak to her. And at the end of the movie, we see that Harker didn't get rid of the image of the beast, so we can just see that the Antichrist is still somewhat alive and well, and at the end, maybe this is setting up a possible sequel.
Top 5 countries with the longest school days. Australia, 6.5 hours. France, 8 hours. South Korea, 8 hours. Kenya, 8 hours. China, 9.5 hours.
Could you guys imagine, man, being in school for 9.5 hours, bro? I remember when I was complaining about the freaking my school hours, man, but I couldn't survive 9.5 hours in school, bro. I couldn't.
Last words of Satanists before dying. Aleister Crowley. I am perplexed. Anton Lavey. Oh my, what have I done? There is something very wrong. David Hume. I am in flames. Voltaire. I am abandoned by God and man. I will give you half of what I am worth if you give me 6 months of life. Sir Francis Newport. Oh, that fire. Oh, the insufferable pangs of hell. Thomas Paine. Stay with me, for God's sake. I can't bear to be left alone. Oh, Lord, help me.
Ooh.
This is a scary story about Do Not Open.
Creepy last
There was
words.
an 18-year-old girl named Mia who was in her first year of college. She lived alone in an apartment near her university. One night when she was doing the dishes, she got a call from her friend Pete. She picked it up and he said, "I'm bored, I want to hang out." Mia said, "Yeah, me too, come over." Pete then said he'll be over in 15 to 20 minutes. She then hung up and decided to take a shower. Mia was in the middle of shampooing her hair when she suddenly heard a loud banging on the door. She stuck her head out of the shower and said, "Come in, it's open." But a few minutes later, the banging on the door started again. She then stuck her head out of the shower again and said, "Come in, it's not locked." Just then, her phone started to ring, and it was Peter. Mia said, "I'm in the shower, why don't you stop knocking and just come in?" Peter's voice sounded extremely scared, and he said, "Do not open the door." Mia said, "Why not?" "I'm outside your apartment building," whispered Peter. "And I just saw a strange woman coming up the stairs to your apartment covered in blood and holding a knife. And she was smiling weirdly and didn't look human at all."
The term "saved by the bell" is a harmless way to describe that you barely made it through a situation. Let's talk about the terrifying history of the term "saved by the bell." Epilepsy is a medical condition where an individual experiences an uncontrolled amount of muscle rigidity and unresponsiveness. What's terrifying is family members would think that their loved one had passed and put them in a coffin, however, they were still very much alive. After having multiple people buried alive, they invented a casket where a bell was hooked on the inside of it. Once the individual who was buried in a coffin snapped out of their coma-like state, they could ring the bell and pray that someone was nearby to hear them.
Saved by the bell. Now, we've heard that before.
Top 5 countries with the most civilian firearms. By estimated number in possession. Russia, 17.6 million. Pakistan, 43.9 million. China, 49.7 million. India, 71.1 million. United States, 393.3 million.
Serial
big
killer
number.
facts that are absolutely shocking. BT.3. In the John Wayne Gacy case, there were so many bodies crammed underneath the house that the bodies melted together, and the bones had to be sorted for more than 2 years to put together the full skeletons. Pee Wee Gaskins, the most prolific serial killer in South Carolina, drove around in a hearse with a bumper sticker that read, "I hold dead people." He told people that he needed it to take the bodies of people he killed in his private cemetery. Jeffrey Dahmer didn't eat people with tattoos because he said the ink made the flesh taste weird.
Weird facts, man. First one was chilling, bro. That they freaking melted together, man. Whew.
The most dangerous dates in 2024.
Talk about it.
Rainbow sky, January 6th. Very cold day, negative 99 degrees.
Damn.
January 17th. Huge moon, January 29th. Blue moon, February 11th.
Okay.
Red yellow moon, February 25th. Lunar eclipse, March 10th. Spring thunderstorm, March 22nd. Starfall, April 5th. Bloody rain, April 16th. Star rain, May 4th. Blood moon, May 14th. Super moon, May 26th. Abnormal heat, 45 degrees, June 7th. Severe thunderstorm, June 15th. Shower from June 19th to June 22nd. Yellow moon, June 29th. Terrible thunderstorm, July 3rd. Severe thunderstorm with hail on July 11th.
Just natural disasters?
This horror game used your webcam and social media profiles in order to create your own personal horror, but it no longer exists. Let's talk about Asylum 626.
Okay.
More obscure horror games right here. Asylum 626 is the sequel to Hotel 626, and this one is even more ambitious. And yes, this was also a game to promote 2 new Doritos flavors that they were bringing back. Before playing, the game actually has you log into your Facebook profile, and it uses it in a pretty interesting way. The game will show you an image of 2 people tied up with 2 photos next to each person. And each of these photos are pictures of your friends from your Facebook profile. You basically have to choose which friend gets tortured in the asylum. There's also a jump scare scene where you have to look deep in a dirty sink, and it will actually show your webcam image as the reflection in the water. The game would also make an actual post on your Facebook page alerting which friend you chose to be tortured in the asylum. It was actually pretty interesting. It's really a shame we can't play Hotel 626 or Asylum 626 anymore. Let's talk about the...
What the hell happened to those games, man? Why did they just suddenly disappear off the net? Never used to promote Doritos. Very weird, man.
Lore behind a disturbing god from fear and hunger. The Tormented One. More unique horror games right here. Before he was one of the new gods, the Tormented One used to be a man. In fact, he was a poet who had a great reverence for the arts. However, he believed that truly beautiful art could only be created through pain and suffering, and he kept those same ideals when he completed his journey to become a god. He kept his body in a state of constant torture on purpose. However, he did not only apply these ideals to himself. This is the Red Man, and he's an example of a creature that was tortured by the Tormented One for over 100 years straight. In-game, he's barely able to crawl towards you by the time you see him. Quick fact, the rings you see around the Tormented One are actually based on some rings that you see in the final boss room of Silent Hill 4.
Horses are much bigger than people, so naturally they just have a lot more blood than we do. So whenever horses get nosebleeds, it ends up looking like a whole crime scene. So one of the only reasons we know how many people died in the Titanic are the shoes that are laying on the ocean floor. Some are pretty cool, others are kind of depressing. And the reason we count the shoes instead of, bones is because when the Titanic hit the floor, all the corpses kind of just scattered and the fish ate the corpses, but the fish couldn't eat the shoes. If you ever decide to go climb Mount Everest, I hope that you remember that the crevices in the ice are V-shaped. Which means if you were to ever accidentally fall down one, you more than likely wouldn't die instantly. Your body heat would melt the ice around you, causing you to slip further and further down until your chest couldn't expand enough to breathe. So make sure you bring a friend just as crazy as you to help get you out.
If the bone in the leg breaks and shatters completely, here's how doctors fix it. Let's find out. First, the person is anesthetized to prevent pain. The doctor makes an incision over the leg at the location of the break, then extracts extracts the entire bone. Holes are made above the knee and on the side of the leg, and then an intramedullary rod is inserted between the bones in such a manner. Subsequently, this intramedullary rod is fixed with metal in a way that it does not move. Afterward, a hole is made above the bone and a wire is threaded through it. Then a tourniquet circular friction lathe machine is attached over the leg, and these wires are connected to it. This machine has 2 bolts on the sides, which function like buttons. When these are turned, the machine starts to separate the bones. Thus, bones that have been misaligned and entangled due to the injury are separated and straightened with the help of this machine. And within a few days, the bone starts to heal.
Weird process, man. I can't even imagine having to go through that. Rod in your leg.
This is insane. The big Texan.
These are scary cartoon truths that would terrify you.
Texan?
Part 10. Okay, so Hello Kitty was created back in the 1970s by a Chinese woman whose daughter had cancer. The doctors told the mother there was nothing she could do, and her daughter will die. The mother then went to every church and prayed for her daughter, but none of it worked. The mother then became very desperate and turned to devil worshipping and satanic rituals. She then made a pact with the devil himself. But if the devil cured her daughter's cancer, he wanted one thing in return. He wanted her to create a cartoon character to appeal to children all over the world and to trick people into worshipping the devil. And when her daughter recovered from cancer, she kept her promise and created Hello Kitty. Hello Kitty is no mouth because her daughter had mouth cancer. Her pointy ears represent the devil's horns. The word kitty means demon in Chinese, so Hello Kitty actually means hello demon.
The more you know, man. She made a deal with the devil.
Strange insectoid creatures were scattered across large segments of Chicago's oldest sewer system. They were forming true nests of creatures that had never seen the light of day, feeding on waste, moisture, and in ways that have not been possible to determine.
Is this an edit, y'all? I think we're gonna have to go with edit. Cause you definitely would have seen something, right? Heard about it.
The following records revealed the presence of hyperdeveloped creatures inhabiting the tunnels. Contact with these creatures was mostly through probes with cameras, although on some occasions.
So
I'm gonna have to go cap on that one.
3 little girls were murdered in a dance class by a teenager, and 10 others were injured. Of course, that teenager was arrested, but official sources never identified who this guy is exactly. There were several protests and riots in the UK across several cities in the country, and there was a mosque that was destroyed and burned down as a form of revenge because of what happened in Southport. About 1 day later after this incident, the government, the media, and the police have officially identified who the killer is. He's a teenager named Axel Udakubana from Rwanda. That is a Christian, not a Muslim, a Christian. Are you gonna burn down a church now that you know he's a Christian? Is that the natural response we as people should have? Official sources confirmed who's the person behind this misinformation. And let me tell you, this is how dangerous misinformation can be. It can lead you to do the wrong things. The person behind this misinformation is Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson is an anti-Islam activist. Most of the biggest platform he has is on X, Twitter. That was where he tweeted that this guy, the murderer, was a Muslim. And you know, because of his contribution to the misinformation, these riots happened, and innocent people were injured, and a mosque was burned down. I'm not sure if it was one or more than one. To be honest, Honestly, I don't even know the guy. I just heard of him today from an official news site that said Tommy Robinson was the main contributor to the misinformation that led to these riots. People are so gullible to be really. Like, I mean this with no offense, but you guys are. And it's really bad.
Kids cartoons.
Talk about
In an episode of Care Bears, the bears and their cousins find themselves in a place called Drab City, where color has vanished and people who live there don't seem to care about anything. This was caused by a mysterious force that took everyone's color and feelings away. And slowly, it started going after the bears, and they eventually gave in until help arrived. The whole episode was about mental health, and it came off as way too heavy for a kid's show. Next, in The Very Odd Parents, Timmy gets upset for not being appreciated for the good deeds he's done and wishes he was never born. He's then transported to an alternate universe where it shows that everyone's lives are better without it. And to add insult to injury, Timmy gets sent to what's basically the pits of hell. And when Timmy gets a hold of Jorgen's wand, he takes time to think if wishing himself to exist is worth making everyone's lives miserable. It's a pretty dark and messed up plot. And lastly, this Thomas and Friends episode starts as per usual, with Thomas giving a helping hand. Then, it's not long after that a character named Stepney ends up getting lost in a scrapyard, getting lost in a fog and almost getting scrapped in the process. This was meant to warn kids to be careful while on their journeys, or you may not live to tell your story.
Ghost stories from...
Hey man, that's freaking crazy, bro. The messaging, man, in these kid shows, man, it's like when you think about it, when you're a kid, you're just so oblivious to it, but there's real life messages in all pieces of media, man. You just gotta be able to see it. Because I sure wasn't picking up on that as a kid.
From around the world. This is hands down my most requested video. Mexico, La Llorona. Once there was a woman named Maria who married a rich man and had 2 children. But eventually her marriage hit a rough patch and her husband started spending less and less time with her and the kids. Until finally Maria caught him cheating. Absolutely enraged at this, she ends up drowning her 2 children. She immediately regrets it and tried to save them, but it was too late. Then she stopped eating and grew thinner and thinner until she resembled a skeleton. Eventually, she finally passed away by the same river that she drowned her children, still crying and mourning over them. So after she died, she went to heaven but was denied entry. She was banished to purgatory on earth until she could find her lost sons. And that's how she became La Llorona, which also translates to the weeping woman. She floats over bodies of water in a long white funeral gown. She also kidnaps children and attacks cheating husbands.
Damn. Okay. I'm probably gonna have to call edit on this one. Yeah. I'm gonna call it edit. What do you guys think?
The darkest conspiracy theories. The Teletubbies theory. The theory says that the show is inspired by historic events
Really?
that happened in a Bulgarian mental facility. Each Teletubby is inspired by a kid that was experimented on. Lola was based on a child who had facial disfigurement and had to smile all the time. And ended up lying in his own puke. And Poe was based on a child who fell into fire, which is recognizable why his color is red.
Here's some conspiracy theories that I
believe
think
that?
have passed the level of theory and are true. Women's clothing is designed with little to no pockets for the sole purpose of selling more purses. High-end art is just a scheme to launder money and avoid taxes. Like this one here, sold for $43 million. This one sold for $46 million. This one was $84 million. Someone actually paid $87 million for this. This has got to contribute to inflation in some way. Things that happen in the entertainment industry, like with movies, TV shows, video games, are done on purpose to gauge interest and get opinions before an official announcement. That little bit of dust that comes off the end of tissues when you pull them out of the box is specifically designed to get you to sneeze, that way you need more tissues. The government orchestrates their own conspiracy theories to get us distracted from actual problems.
Like, she was hitting the head on the nail, bro. Especially, like I said, how some of those theories, how they can be true. I'm about to say, you guys think, especially the last one, when she said how sometimes the government, they be trying to put, theories out there trying to distract us from the bigger truth. That's why I tapped in with this, or tuned into this type of content, man, so I can learn, so I can expand my mind. I didn't want to be distracted no more. Where's this guy?
Some trees can actually grow inside of your lungs. In Russia, doctors performed surgery on a man named Artyom Sidorkin, suspecting that he had a cancerous tumor in his lungs. Instead of a tumor, though, they found a 5-centimeter fir tree branch inside of his lung.
What?
Doctors believe that Sidorkin accidentally swallowed a fir tree bud, which later grew into a branch. The probability of dying on your birthday is higher than any other day. There is actually a 14% chance of dying on your birthday than any other day. This is a shocking phenomenon called the birthday effect, which may be due to extra stress, drinking more, or people engaging in risky behaviors on their birthdays. A devil's chair exists in many cemeteries. In various cemeteries around the world, there are stone chairs called devil's chairs. These chairs were often used by mourners to sit and grieve, but legends and superstitions have given them a sinister reputation. Some stories claim that if you sit in one at midnight, the devil himself will appear. You are more likely to be bitten by someone in New York City than you are to be bitten by a shark. There could be someone secretly living in your wall or attic without you even knowing it. It's called frogging, and people say that it's becoming more and more common. So if you hear strange noises, notice things missing or moved, or your box of Frosted Flakes cereal is all of a sudden empty, there could be a frogger living in your home.
Here's what some of the most...
I didn't even know that was an actual term, but froggers, that's actually one of my worst fears ever, man. That's like, imagine somebody in your own space and you have no idea. Gotta pay attention, man. And that fir tree going inside that person, I would have said that's impossible, man, but we just saw it. You know.
Most famous monsters actually are the chupacabra. The goat-griefing livestock leech believed to be first seen in Puerto Rico was more than likely a dog with a severe case of mange, and that's when mites burrow into the skin and basically cause parasitic alopecia. Bigfoot, different animals, same beast, or whatever it was Kobe said. Anyway, it was probably a mangy bear. Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C. What the hell mange does? Coke bear done graduated to meth?
Ooh.
I don't mean numbers. The Loch Ness Monster. There have been many theories, but what's most likely was probably just an escaped circus elephant with trunks out like Dragon Ball. For centuries, there have been stories of killer Cyclops, a one-eyed op to humanity. Whole time, someone probably just found an expired elephant skull in an Olympic long jump to a conclusion. And last, almost every sea monster story you've ever heard was probably just some whale freeing his willy. That's exactly what you think it is, the more you know.
Here's how Area 51 became the center for alien conspiracy theories. In 1989, a man named Bob Lazar claimed that he had worked at a facility near Area 51 known as S4. According to Lazar, the facility was being used to reverse engineer alien technology recovered from crashed UFOs. Lazar's claims were highly controversial, and many people dismissed him as a hoaxer. However, his story only served to fuel the already existing rumors of alien activity at Area 51. Since then, countless conspiracy theories have emerged about what's really going on at Area 51. Some people believe that the government is hiding evidence of extraterrestrial life, while others think that the base is being used to develop top-secret weapons and technology.
What do you guys think?
That's what Mordecai said. Take that back, Rigby. They started fighting, and it didn't take long for them to bump into a microwave which took them up into space. And while in space, the argument still continued. You're over here turning on me, Mordecai, but I'm your bro. I'm just looking out for you. That's what Mordecai said. I don't care. I've been trying to get with Margaret for years, and yet every time she turns me down. And next thing you know, Mordecai pushes Rigby off, killing Rigby. That's when Mordecai says, wait, no! But the damage was already done, and Rigby's funeral went down the following week. After that day, Mordecai got so depressed. Mordecai killed his best friend, and he disintegrated into the abyss. All because he was a simp.
He couldn't take that L, bro. It drove him insane. What the hell? I can't believe that freaking aired. That was on like Cartoon Network too. I'm gonna have to check. We're gonna have to review that episode, man. See if it's legit.
Who eat humans. Komodo dragon. Piranhas. Crocodiles. Jaguars. African driver ant.
African driver ants eat humans?
Bear. Lion. Catfish.
Catfish eat humans now? What the hell?
Tiger. Cheetah. Hyenas. Shark. Dog.
Dogs too? What the hell?
Polar bear.
This is part 2 of the crime scene
That
photos
has shocked me.
released from the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case, revolving around the murder of her mom, Dee Dee. This is another photo that was taken inside the house. You can see that the kitchen is absolutely trashed. This is inside their living room. Again, literally trash everywhere. This next one, please, if you're squeamish, look away. Okay, I cropped the photo, but basically her mom was found in this pink bed sheet. I'm covering a lot of, She was found laying on her stomach with stab wounds all over her body and a huge gash mark on her neck. Again, those photos are literally online where you see everything. I cropped this one again, but this is the crime scene bit. This half, it was just all blood and a wrapped body. I know a lot of you are really curious and you want to see these photos, but they are very dark and gruesome. Even photos of Dee Dee nude from the waist down. It was a very dark and gruesome murder.
Cursed games you should never play. Part 24.
Dark case.
Blue baby, baby blue. Begin at night. Go into a bathroom and turn off all the lights. Then lock the door behind you and face the mirror. As you're looking into the mirror, position your arms as though you're cradling a baby. While doing this, chant the phrase blue baby, baby blue 13 times. As you do this, you'll feel the weight in your arms begin to grow. And at some point, you'll start to feel scratching on your arms. Once you feel the scratching, immediately drop the baby in the toilet, flush it, unlock the door, and leave. If you're alive, you won. But there are 2 possible losing conditions. The lesser of 2 being the scratching in your arms becoming unbearable, or the second one being a woman appearing in the mirror. She will demand her baby back and probably kill you.
I never play those type of
These are
games.
scary cartoon
Never.
truths that would terrify you. Part 12. Okay, so Talking Angela started as a mobile phone app for a lot of children. Angela is a white cat with blue eyes who has conversations with you and could answer any question you ask. But recently, Talking Angela turned into an app to spy on young children. It is said the app was taken over by a creepy man or a very creepy group. It's said that if you're over 18, nothing happens. But if you're younger than that, the cat will then start asking you very weird questions. Like, where do you live, what is your name, and what are your parents' names? The creepy man or group are able to take pictures of you through your own phone. Also, if you zoom in on Angela's eye, you can see a man watching you. And if that's not scary enough, a young boy named Eli went missing shortly after downloading the app, and he was never found.
Hey man, that's how you gotta freaking. You have to know what type of apps you download, man. Especially when it comes to these kids' apps, because they just use as a cover for something else, man. Like a simple kids app, bro. You think talking to a cat, you wouldn't think nothing. You wouldn't think nothing of it. It's like it's the perfect cover, seekers. We learning out here. Got it. Call it like I see it.
Every time I go to chase it, it runs. I don't think it's a good idea I chase it anymore. You might think I'm playing with him. Every time. I see him, but I'm not gonna act like I see him. See him right there ducking. Oh, what the hell's wrong with his head?
I say that too.
Why does he look like that? I want to try to zoom. Oh my god, why does he look like that?
Hmm?
All of the Rugrats are
Oh.
a part of Angelica's imagination. They aren't real. None of them? Chucky died in the same accident that his mom died. And that's why his dad is always so nervous and freaking out, because he has to deal with it. What about Tommy? Well, Tommy was a stillborn. And that's why Stu goes down into the basement late at night, making toys for the son he wish he had. That's why he's always depressed.
What are you doing?
Making chocolate pudding.
It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Why on earth are you making chocolate pudding?
Because I've lost control of my life.
And the twins ended up being a miscarriage. It was early in the pregnancy, so Angelica didn't know if it was going to be a boy or a girl, so she just imagined both. What about Susie? Susie is real and going along with all of Angelica's crazy imaginations because it's her only friend. She tries to make her happy at times. But the one baby that is real is Dill. Dill goes against Angelica's crazy imagination and doesn't do what she expects. And that's why Angelica freaks out on Dill all the time and gets so upset.
Rugrats, man, they weren't real the whole time? Show that there to a couple of people, and their minds gonna be blown. The hell? The hell?
The reason I had to move out of my flat.
Okay.
I was home alone.
The hell is that? It's staring at her, and the dogs can see it too. It's like the dog can sense it. If you know that ain't your mom, don't open it up. How the hell they unlock the door?
Then what's your name then?
Yeah, what the hell? She was right now opening up that door. That was a creepy one. For
This
sure.
teenager became concerned for her ex and tried to help him. Little did she know she was about to be brutally killed. Lauren Astley was 18 years old from Wayland, Massachusetts. She began dating Nathaniel Fujita when the pair were in high school together. Nathaniel was a popular football player. The pair were described as being quite on and off. On the 1st of April 2011, she decided to end the relationship with Nathaniel. However, it did not go down very well at all, and his friends reported that he became depressed and withdrawn. He stopped doing things he used to enjoy doing, and he just didn't seem to care about life anymore. In summer 2011, the pair attended the same graduation party. It was reported that at the party, Nathaniel got quite jealous of when Lauren was talking to other boys. Nathaniel got quite drunk, and Lauren's mum was actually at the party, and Lauren ran up to her crying. She said that Nathaniel wouldn't leave her alone and was harassing her. Now, Nathaniel got so angry at this party that he punched the tent that everybody was in and caused it to collapse.
Damn.
He was then asked to leave the party. It was reported that Nathaniel started drinking quite heavily and becoming even more depressed. His mum actually got so worried about him that she reached out to Lauren. She asked Lauren if she could help and maybe speak to him, and Lauren agreed because she was concerned. Lauren agreed to chat to him and meet him at his house on the 3rd of July 2011. Tragically, she had no idea she would not leave the house alive. She texted him stating here and entered the house at approximately 7:05 p.m. Nathaniel lured her into the garage, slit her throat and strangled her with a bungee cord. He then drove her car to Town Beach and disposed of the keys down a drain. After running home, he put her body in his car and dumped her in a secluded area nearby. Obviously, Lauren's family got really concerned when she didn't get home. Nathaniel, as obviously the last person she was meeting up with, was reported as a suspect. Police found bloodstains in his garage and a big bag full of clothes soaked in blood. Lauren's body was found not long after. Nathaniel's defense in court stated that he was suffering a massive depressive episode and therefore should not be held criminally responsible.
Really?
However, luckily he was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison.
People are calling this case the Incest House of Horrors. This case comes with just about the biggest trigger warning for the most horrific things you could hear. It was October 2023 in the quiet Polish village called Koniki. An arrest was about to happen which would shake the small community. The true horrors of what had been going on under everyone's noses were absolutely chilling. Peter Girasik was 54 years old. He and his wife Hannah had had a staggering 12 children together. Hannah had passed away 15 years prior, leaving Peter to look after the children on his own. Now, the house that he lived in was far from ideal for such a huge family. Locals were also often concerned about hearing cries and screaming from inside the home. They knew Peter had a close relationship with his 20-year-old daughter, Paulina, but they had no idea just how disturbing things were getting inside the home. That was until local workers at a cake shop nearby tipped off social services. They had serious concerns about what was going on in the property, and they were right to be worried. When officers arrived at the home, they could smell something absolutely potent. Upon closer inspection of the property, they found decomposing dead babies in the basement. 2 of the tiny bodies were wrapped in plastic bags and one was just lying on the floor. Now, at the time of the discovery, Peter wasn't actually living in this house with all 12 of his children. Some had escaped. He was living in the house with his daughter Paulina and his disabled son Damien. It would later be revealed that sometimes Damien was seen sat outside the house crying. He told officers that his dad would have S with his sister, so the dad's daughter, and regularly chase Damien out the house and beat him when he wanted to do this. Damien was abused and was given little more than cold rice to live off. Horrifically, police discovered that the deceased babies in the basement were actually the product of incest. The 3 babies found in the cellar were believed to have been killed just after they were born. Frustratingly, Peter had actually been on the radar of police. He'd been investigated 5 times over allegations of incest. He was arrested finally by police, and his daughter Paulina was also arrested. Thankfully, many of Peter's children had managed to flee, and his one daughter, Cassia, referred to him as a monster. He's now facing charges of murder, incest, and R.
Christopher Scarver was a junior in high school when he was kicked out of his mother's house for being an alcoholic. He then took a job as a carpenter in training and was promised that when he completed his training, he'd be hired full-time. Unfortunately, the man who promised him this was let go and replaced by a man named Steve Lohman. Christopher was enraged when he didn't get his job, so he went to Steve demanding his money and shot him in the head 3 times after receiving it. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia and convicted and was sent to life in prison with fellow inmate Jeffrey Dahmer. Dahmer was a convicted serial killer and sex offender who had murdered and eaten over 17 boys. One morning, the 2 were assigned to clean the prison gym. When Jeffrey turned his back, Christopher murdered him with a 20-inch bar from the weight room. He received 2 additional life sentences, and when asked why he did it, he said that Dahmer made him extremely uncomfortable and wasn't sorry for what he did.
So about 10 minutes ago, there was an update in the disappearance of Nicola Bully. Nicola went missing last Friday whilst walking her dog near the River Wyre. And just moments ago, police released a CCTV image of a woman walking her dog who they now believe may have been the last person to see Nicola. It's important to note that the police want to talk to this woman as a potential witness and not a potential suspect. In fact, police have now said that they have no reason to suspect that a third party is involved with Nicola's disappearance. Authorities are continuing an extensive search of the river, as well as searching an old abandoned house near to where Nicola went missing. Hopefully, Nicola will be located soon and her family and friends will have answers.
6 teenage boys played a harmless ding-dong ditch prank on this man's home, and just minutes later, 3 of them were dead. On the evening of January 19th, 2020, 6 teenage boys and best friends were having a sleepover and celebrating Jacob Avosku's 16th birthday. Later that night, one of the boys was dared to either jump into a pool or ding-dong ditch somebody's house, and after choosing the latter, they all got into a Prius driven by their 18-year-old friend and picked a random house. The house they chose belonged to 45-year-old Anurag Chandra in Corona, California. Once there, one of the teens hopped out, rang the doorbell, mooned the camera, and then got back into the Prius where they quickly drove off. But this harmless prank angered Anurag so much that he got into his car and started chasing the teens. He was going 99 miles per hour in a 40 mile per hour zone, and when he caught up to the Prius, he intentionally rammed into the back and side of it. This caused it to go off the road, quickly slamming into a tree and utility pole. The crash immediately killed Drake Ruiz, Daniel Hawkins, and Jacob Avascu, all 16 years old. According to Anurag, he didn't stop after the crash and proceeded to go home after hitting the kids because he didn't think anyone was hurt. He was arrested at his home later that same night. The driver and 2 other 13-year-olds who were also in the car were injured but survived the crash. During the investigation, Anurag said that the prank angered him so much, but also said that he decided to chase after the teens because he was worried for his family's safety after being mooned. It was also revealed that in the 3 hours before the prank, Anurag consumed 12 beers and was highly intoxicated. Anurag has just been charged with 3 counts of murder and 3 counts of attempted murder and has since pleaded not guilty. He's due back in court on July 14th and faces life in prison without parole. It's also worth noting that at the time of the killings, Anurag was already facing domestic violence and battery charges in an
This video shows...
Man, Ding Dong Ditch, that's a classic, bro. It makes you think twice before playing that game, man. Ding Dong Ditch, I mean, that's how you used to be seeing all those pranks on YouTube. How they be doing that at, like, college campuses. You gotta be careful because obviously some people will take it to the extreme. Try to chase you down.
Kayla Brown chained up in the slave storage container of Todd Kohlhepp, the Amazon review killer. Between 2003 and 2016, he murdered at least 7 people in South Carolina, dropping several clues along the way. He left several reviews on Amazon products that he used in the killings, like this one that reads, "Keep in your car when you have to hide the bodies and left the full-size shovel at home." In 2016, Kayla and her boyfriend Charles went missing after they went to clean Todd's residence. No one heard from them for months until a post was made to Charles' Facebook page saying that he and Kayla were expecting a baby. Shortly after, an old photo of the couple was posted with the caption, "We are fine." This raised suspicions, leading police to trace these posts to a storage unit on Todd's property. There they freed Kayla and took Todd into custody, where he bragged about burying several bodies on the property as well, including Kayla's boyfriend. He was given 7 life sentences, 1 for each of his murders, despite him confessing to many, many more.
So he was leaving freaking the clues on Amazon, bro. What the hell? People are bold enough to do something like that, man. They just freaking... They could get away with everything, man. They try to put it in front of our eyes, think we can't see it. Also, I mean, when people be commenting weird stuff on things, man, you gotta just pay close attention to it, man. Because you don't never know their intentions. It could be a joke or it could be something completely sinister.
This is breaking news about Rudy Farias, the Texas teen who went missing 8 years ago and was just found. Apparently, he was never missing, and said his mother was holding him hostage. Rudy reportedly said that his mother forced him to play daddy, drugged him, manipulated him, and abused him the entire 8 years he was missing. A lot of information was just released about an hour ago at a press conference, but let's go back to 2015. On March 6th, 17-year-old Rudy Farias was last seen walking his 2 dogs in northeast Houston. His mother said he never returned home, but they found the dogs safe. Authorities and volunteers searched for him, but they couldn't find him. Rudy's mother, Janie Santana, told police that he suffered from depression and PTSD since losing his brother in a motorcycle accident in 2011. A year before Rudy disappeared, his father, who was a Houston police officer, was facing an internal affairs investigation. Fast forward 3 years to 2018, and relatives of Rudy call police and say they saw Rudy behind another relative's house. Police show up and search, but they don't locate him. 5 years later, Rudy, who is now 25 years old, is found unresponsive outside of a church. According to Janie, her son had cuts and bruises all over his body and blood in his hair. She said her son had been badly beaten and abused. Janie also claimed her son believed he's 14 now and has a completely different identity. But get this, Rudy was found with his mother's credit card that was issued 2 years ago. So how did he get that card if he's been missing for 8 years, like she claims? If that's not weird enough, neighbors of Rudy came forward to the media and said that Rudy was never missing, and he's been living in this house with Janie the entire time. And they know that because Rudy would occasionally walk over to their garage and hang out. When confronted about this, Janie said that the neighbors were confusing Rudy with her nephew. But when they looked at a picture of her nephew, they were like, no, that's not who we saw. We saw Rudy. So police want to interview Rudy and find out what has happened the past 8 years. But Janie is saying that her son is nonverbal, which is very far from the truth, because this morning Quinnell X talked to Rudy himself for about an hour and a half. Quinnell X is a community leader and counselor, and he went to mediate an interview between the family and police. When everyone arrived to the hotel, Rudy asked if he could speak to Quinnell alone, away from his mother. And after being separated from his mother, Rudy apparently went into detail about his mother's abuse, and said he was tired of living like a slave. I'm about to play some clips from the press conference that just dropped an hour ago, and just a warning, these details are extremely disturbing.
I honestly believe, based on what he said to us, she was drugging the hell out this kid. And she convinced him that he was in trouble for initially running away. She would ask him to play daddy. She told him that he had to be the husband. She would force him to sleep in the bed with her.
Go to part 2 if you want to see his entire statement. It's extremely disturbing.
Yeah, that's right.
The statement work right there.
Is that a person?
That's a definitely a person.
That's a person. That's a person.
This is what happened to 20-year-old Melissa Chavez and how they tried to cover up her murder with a fire. Melissa Chavez was born in 2008 in Coquimbo, Chile to her mother Mirta and her father Dennis. She was the youngest of 4, and she's described as being a very shy, quiet, and reserved child. She didn't really like to go out much. One of her favorite activities was to stay home, go in her room, put her headphones on, and just listen to music. She didn't have that many friends, but everyone says that she was really kind and just a happy little girl. Shortly after Melissa was born, her parents ended up getting a divorce, so now Mirta was a single mother. In order to make ends meet, she got a job working at a local bar called La Chilenita. And while she was working there, she met a man named Luis Santander. Now, Luis was actually in a relationship at the time, so he had a girlfriend, but he decided to leave his girlfriend so he could start dating Mirta, who was 8 years older than him. The two of them started dating, and then in 2010, they decided to take the next step and move in together. Eventually got married, and Mirta got pregnant and gave birth to a baby boy. Now, as for Melissa, her older siblings were already gone. They had moved out and, started their own lives. So now Melissa was just living with her mother Mirta, her new stepfather Luis, and then her new half-brother. Everything seemed to be going well, but when Melissa was just 6 years old, she told one of her older sisters that her new stepfather Luis was essaying her. Not only did she tell her sister about this, but she also told her school counselor, and the both of them reported this immediately to her mother Mirta. Now, at first, it honestly seemed like Mirta did believe her daughter. She actually went to the police station and she reported this. However, she later withdrew the report and said that she no longer believed Melissa and that she felt like her daughter was doing this for attention and that she was lying. Yeah, she said this about a 6-year-old little girl reporting her stepfather for essaying her. So even though she withdrew the statement, police still wanted to go through with the investigation because, these are very serious allegations. So they opened an investigation, and in the meantime, they removed Melissa from Mirta's care. This investigation went on for almost 2 years, and the only reason that Melissa was placed back in the custody of her mother Mirta was because Mirta told the authorities that she was going to divorce Luis and that he was no longer going to live in the house or be a part of their lives. She told police, it's perfectly safe for Melissa to come back to the house because Luis is no longer going to be there. And authorities and CPS just believed her. They didn't do an investigation to make sure that Mirta was going to divorce him. They didn't go check the house to make sure Luis was no longer there. Nothing. They just believed Mirta, and then they returned Melissa into her custody. They should have done a further investigation because Mirta lied. Luis was still part of their lives. He was still living in the house, and instead of protecting her daughter, she chose this man. November 26, 2020, at around 11:21 in the morning, firefighters and police arrived to Melissa's home after neighbors reported the house on fire. Firefighters went up to the second floor, and when they walked into Melissa's bedroom, they discovered her body lying on the top bunk of her bed. First, firefighters believed that she died due to suffocation from all of the smoke. However, when they got a better view of her body, they realized she didn't die because of the fire. They discovered that she had severe stab wounds to her neck, face, and her body, and that someone tried to cover up the murder with arson. Okay, more in part 2.
This 14-year-old was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, making him the youngest person to ever receive that sentence. So have you ever heard of Lionel Tate? Lionel was born on January 30th of 1988. As he grew up, people described him as having average intelligence, but he did have some street smarts. He did have some behavioral issues, as he had been kicked out of school about 15 times for stealing, lying, and fighting. And it seems like those behavioral issues were never properly addressed. Lionel was also not small. At 12 years old, he was almost 6 foot tall and weighed about 170 pounds. On the night of July 28, 1999, Kathleen, which was Lionel's mother, was asked to watch one of her closest friend's daughters, Tiffany Unick. Tiffany was just 6 years old at the time and was a fraction of the size of Lionel. She only weighed about 48 pounds.
Sometime in the evening, Kathleen decided that she wanted to go upstairs to her room and left the two younger children alone downstairs. At about 10 p.m., both Lionel and Tiffany were getting kind of noisy, so Kathleen screamed down the stairs telling them to keep the noise down. She did not go downstairs and physically check on the children at this time. But at about 10:40, Lionel goes up to the room and tells Kathleen that Tiffany is not breathing. Lionel told Kathleen that they were play wrestling and that he had Tiffany in a headlock. He says that she then smashed her head onto a side table and then started rolling around on the floor where she urinated herself and was moaning, and he said she was acting like a baby. Lionel says that he left her alone and then sometime later went upstairs to get his mother when he noticed that she was not breathing anymore. By the time Kathleen got down to Tiffany, she was already cold. But upon closer examination, it would be revealed that Tiffany's injuries were far worse. She had bleeding in her brain, a cracked skull, a broken rib. Her kidneys were hemorrhaged. She had a lacerated liver, and she had so many bruises all over her body. A child abuse expert would testify in court, saying that the beating had to have lasted about 5 minutes, and it was the equivalent of a fall from a 3-story building. But Lionel claimed that he was just practicing the wrestling moves that he had seen on TV. It would take several years, but in 2001, Lionel would go on trial for first-degree murder, and he would be tried as an adult. I'm going to go to part 2. It will be up down in the comments, but I have to film it first, so give me just a couple of minutes.
The following morning was May 3rd, 2019.
Okay.
Thomas walked into the school cafeteria and asked Ellie's friends if they'd seen her. He'd been looking for her the entire morning, as he wanted to discuss the breakup they had the previous evening. When Thomas heard that Ellie wasn't in school that morning, he wasted no time in trying to find her. He told one of the teachers that he wasn't feeling well, so he walked to the bus station nearby and took a bus back home. When he got to his house, he immediately changed his clothes. He put on a black hoodie and also took off his white sneakers and opted for his black ones. But just as he was about to leave the house, his mother arrived home. It seemed that she had come to pick up something. Thomas didn't want his mother to know that he skipped school, so he hid inside one of his cupboards and stayed there until she left. The minute she left, Thomas got out of the cupboard and took the keys to the family's spare car and set off towards Ellie's home, about a 10-minute drive away. When he got to Ellie's house, he knocked on her front door and told her that he wanted to speak to her. The two allegedly spoke in the kitchen, and an argument soon broke out after Thomas realized that Ellie was serious about the breakup. At some point during the argument, he started strangling Ellie, who was desperately fighting for her life, hitting and scratching Thomas, hoping he would let go. Thomas wasn't letting go, though, and continued to strangle Ellie until she passed out. He then went to grab a knife from the kitchen drawer and repeatedly stabbed Ellie in her neck, a total of 13 times. After he realized that she was dead, he took the knife out of her neck and went to wash it in the basin, making sure that he washed off his fingerprints. He then placed the knife back into Ellie's neck. Thomas then proceeded to clean the crime scene before unlocking Ellie's phone and texting her friend pretending to be Ellie. He told the friend that she was no longer coming to school and that the friend didn't need to pick her up, ensuring that Ellie's body wouldn't be found until at least the afternoon. He then realized that Ellie had left scratch marks on his face and neck, so he set out to create an alibi for him. He posted the message to the group. He then sent a few messages to Ellie's phone, asking if they could meet up and talk about their relationship. At 3 p.m. that afternoon, Ellie's dad had come home from work.
So I pull up in the drive, Ellie's car, a small red car that she was learning to drive and was on the drive. So I come into the house, walk into the kitchen, put my phone and wallet down on the table. And then from the corner of my eye, I see Ellie's legs. So I immediately rang for an ambulance, and they tried to tell me how to resuscitate her, and I told them that it was pointless. I believe she was dead. It was horrific.
I'm just having to walk in and see that, man. Nobody should have to see that. And he was making this elaborate freaking plan story. It seems like he had everything planned out. he knew what he was doing, man. Everything was surgical, strategical, literally step by step. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're a true seeker seeking the truth. I'd really appreciate the support. Make sure you guys leave a thumbs up on this video, comment down below. Also, don't forget to hit that post notification bell so you always get notified when I upload my next videos. You guys are going to catch me in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.